Welcome to Energize and Revitalize with Dr. Amy. I'm Dr. Amy Coopersmith, a doctorate-prepared nurse practitioner, and this show is about empowering you to live a radiant, healthy, and balanced life. I'm very excited to introduce my guest today, Marissa Sousa, founder of Indigo Door. Marissa is a holistic healer and wellness guide. She is a certified occupational therapy assistant and a licensed cosmetologist. Marissa is also a Reiki master teacher, crystal healer, and holistic master. She blends medical knowledge with spiritual healing to restore balance in mind, body, and soul. Welcome, Marissa.
Yay!
Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Marissa and I met years ago. You put on a seminar about crystals.
Yes.
And I was just starting my business. I had a little time on my hands, and I said, that sounds interesting. So I just went and I learned a lot about crystals. And then I didn't see you for a few years.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw the Indigo Door out in City Marketplace. And I said, what is this? And I walked in, and there you were.
It's so crazy how the world is.
I love our town because we just are interconnected, and people that you meet, at certain spots in your journey, you tend to see them again when it's right.
Absolutely. It was meant to be.
Yes.
How the energy just flows and comes back.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you've put on different community or events open to the community with different healers of different types.
Yes.
That's just so different from traditional healing things, and just a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It was hard in the beginning because some people are like, what is going on? What is all this energy stuff?
Mm-hmm.
What's this vibrational stuff, frequency, energy healing? What is Reiki? Like all these things that you don't usually see
Right.
or hear about. It's kind of like a taboo topic. But then I just said something inside me was like, you need to open up a space that you could do all of this and see, just bring in that light to the community and see what they think of it. Because sometimes they think of it as the old traditional way of things that aren't so light, but they are.
Absolutely. Well, what is Reiki? Or did I say it right?
Yes, you
Okay.
did. Yes, so Reiki, okay, it started years and years ago. It was a monk who was trying to figure out how Jesus was healing. Now, yes, he knows that Jesus was the Son of God, but he was using his palms and energy was going through him. So this monk was trying to understand, what is it with our bodies? Are we energy frequency? Are we in quantum realms, and what's going on? So he went to this mountain for 21 days and he meditated. Now, the last day, he was so upset and he said, okay, there's nothing here. I don't know what this energy is, but it's not real. And right when he was getting up, he got struck with lightning.
Oh, my goodness.
And he was like, what is this? And all of a sudden he said he had this euphoric feeling. It could have been that he didn't eat. I'm not sure. But he had this euphoric feeling of how to open up the chakra systems in the body and how to use your hand placements in certain positions of your hands. When he started doing that, he would do that to all of the areas where he was from, like slum areas. And he wanted to do it all for free. He felt like healing should be a universal thing that's free for everybody. And he wanted to work with people who were like alcoholics, drug addicts. He just felt like he wanted to help with that population. But what he noticed throughout the years is that if you are not ready to heal and you don't have your intention, they just kept coming back and just kept wanting it free and free. And he realized that was not his intention. He wanted to really help them heal, or at least plant a seed so that they can say, you know what, I need to change my life. If I don't take the initiative, no one's going to fix it for me. So then he started realizing, I have to put a price on this. So I have to start charging, because then they will see it's valued.
Right.
So then when he started learning certain practices, he was using this hospital, and he wanted it to always be in hospitals because he felt like it was an additional. It wasn't that Reiki is supposed to cure you completely. It's just an additional modality that you could use while you're healing. So he started teaching, and he taught 22 masters in the whole world. And from those 22 masters, they expanded and left. One went to Hawaii and opened up a clinic there. They just all expanded everywhere. And now we have, there's thousands. It's crazy. It's amazing.
Right. Well, because people like it. So let's say somebody comes to you for Reiki. What does a typical session look like?
Well, mine has evolved so much, but the typical session is you want to have a massage table, and you have them lay down. Usually they lay on their back, And you always want to ask them permission if you could either touch them or hover over them. Sometimes you have like quiet music, kind of like a massage, energy. You want to have maybe a candle, whatever feels right for you, quiet music. And you want to start with, you always want to have an intention. And when you become a Reiki level 1 or level 2 or 3 and become a master, there's a certain way you become attuned. When you have the attunement, it's hard to explain, but it's a triangle, and it's a way to heal and heal the body. And it's connected to like the meridian systems of the body, the endocrine systems, and the organs. And when they lay down, you want to hold their head first. You add the attunement. There's a specific way that you learn how to do that. Once you feel the connection with that other person, then you move on to their head. So then you start with the crown chakra, the top of their head, which we call that crown chakra. And it's like a purple color, and it just activates the mind. Then you go on their forehead, which is the indigo color, and that's the third eye. So then you move through all the chakra systems. Then you would either hit their knees or touch their knees or touch their legs or their feet. And then they would roll over and you do the same thing on the back. But lately, I had just been holding the head of the person and kind of feeling the frequency. Sometimes I'll go to the knees, sometimes the feet. Sometimes I don't even touch their body. I can just feel it. I've been doing it over 10 years. So now I can feel where the energy is kind of stuck, and you can feel it. When you start learning about energy, you can feel what's going on with the person. And once you start learning that something is wrong with their throat, it means the throat chakra, they're not able to communicate certain things, or they feel like they either overshare. And they're like, oh, I don't know how to be clear about that. But you could feel this, I don't know how to explain it, but you can feel like this fuzzy feeling of something being stuck.
Okay.
And that's how you know I need to talk to them at the end of the session to let them know this is where I felt the energy. Do you want to talk about that? Or they don't have to talk about it. You should just tell them what you were feeling. I'm also a medium, so I can tap into the other side and feel the energies. So my Reiki sessions are a little odd. They're different.
They're unique.
Yes.
So is there a particular ailment or issue a person might see a Reiki for?
So absolutely. If you're feeling anxiety, like intense anxiety, you want some relaxation. You feel like you're just stuck and you don't know what's going on. You can't really place what the feeling you feel. You just know there's something not right. Sometimes it's you're in your head too much and you're feeling like I'm tired of taking medicine. I'm tired of just doing all this like repetitive motion. So you want to come and get a Reiki session to just work on and heal. Also, when you have arthritis and your body's hurting after a hip surgery, absolutely take your medicine, go to therapy. But also you could do Reiki and work on the tissue. And like it's all about energy and how it can focus that energy in your body to start to heal.
So let's say somebody had hip surgery and they're having some pain after. They can have a session with you and you identify the source of the pain?
Yes.
Okay.
So I can identify if it's like tissue or cartilage or bone. I can feel all of that energy and I can say to them, it looks like it's healing really well. Or are you maneuvering something wrong? Something feels a little bit tight or stuck, or are you not stretching it enough? Are you making sure that you're staying within your precautions? You can't go above 90 degrees,
Right.
certain things, but usually it has to do with emotions. So for example, the right side of the body is feminine energy, masculine energy, I'm sorry. So if somebody has an issue with their right hip and that's connected to the sacral chakra, that usually has to do with boundaries, or they're not feeling safe in their body, or they're not able to be creative or not have a fun. They're just too stuck and rigid.
So you identify these issues now and you communicate that to the client and they can, so they're aware. Are you able to do anything about, like, heal it? Or
So when I focus the energy, I can feel my hands get really warm. Sometimes they say they feel tingles. Sometimes they feel something coming out of their feet. Sometimes they go to sleep. A lot of the guys go to sleep, and that's okay because a lot of healing happens when we're sleeping because we need to be subconscious. And usually it has to do with an energy that we focus the energy there. And then by the end of it's allowing them to become aware of those emotions. And then they realize, oh, I am going through that. And I didn't realize it becomes a dis-ease in my body, which therefore I wasn't focusing on that, or I allowed my hip to go too long. And so once they're aware of what's going on, it changes the mindset.
right.
And then they're like, oh, I do need to work on that. maybe I never thought about that. And we don't think that our emotions really affect us, but
Mm-hmm.
emotions are, they're like, we're made out of water. So when you learn about Dr. Emoto, when he talked about the emotions and like specific words change the vibration of the water molecules, and you can see it like if you have a plant, let's just say, for example, and you give it water, and underneath the plant, you just write a little word that says like, I love this plant, and I'm so grateful for you to give me oxygen in my home so I can breathe better.
Mm-hmm.
And you put that underneath the plant is going to flourish. Now, if you put other words like, I can't stand you, you
Oh,
aggravate me, I don't want to give you water, it changes the vibration, and that water, that plant starts to like wither away. And
wow.
there's proof of this, scientific proof.
Yeah, it kind of, I think, translates to self-talk. We've talked a lot about that, like the things we say to ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
and that there's really power behind those words.
Absolutely, because we are vibrational beings. I mean, it's proven. We emit frequency. Why do they use EKG machines? Because we're electric magnetic beings, and they have to check our electric magnetic fields, and they have to see how is our heart rate. And that's why we have these machines to see it going up and down, up and down, up and down. So it what happens when someone goes cold, like they have to electrocute them.
Right.
So we're electric magnetic beings, and if we are not talking good to ourselves, and we're saying really negative things, or we have a lot of guilt or shame, or we feel like we're not good enough or we're not worthy, it lowers our vibration, which therefore causes issues in our body, and then we start having disease and things start breaking down. Yes, it will happen because we get older. That's just common sense.
Right.
Our body is a shell. I believe we're souls within this body, and that we're more powerful than this, and we're souls that transcend. Even when we're here, some people can see spirits leave the body.
Mm.
But in the meantime, you still have to take care of this vessel that you're here, and you have to love it. And I think that's what we're, as humans, it's so hard for us to love ourselves.
Right. And, another kind of scientific thing we see, sometimes after an intense period of stress, you see people get diagnosed with cancer,
Mm-hmm.
things like that, because the mind is actually that powerful to protect, or in this case, not protect against that disease entity.
Absolutely. And if somebody, like for example, I had a woman who had breast cancer.
Mm.
And after she did chemo, she started coming to see me. And I asked her, I said, what were you thinking when this happened to you?
Mm-hmm.
And then she said, I just felt like I was going to beat it. I just had the intention of, okay, I have this. I own it. Now, how do I beat this?
Yep.
So it's her intention that she was willing to do that. And I'm not saying this is for everybody, because everybody is different and we all have our own soul's journey and soul contract and who knows.
Right.
But there are other people who don't have that mindset, and they start feeling like very negative and guilty, and then they feel like, I just want to give up. Sometimes the cancer will metastasize.
Right. Which is just awful. So I'm going to have you hold that thought for just a moment. We're going to pause for a break from our sponsor. You're listening to Energize and Revitalize with Dr. Amy. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Energize and Revitalize with Dr. Amy. I'm Dr. Amy Coopersmith, and my guest today is Marissa Sousa, founder of Indigo Door. Before the break, we were talking about Reiki and its healing power. You also mentioned that you're a medium. What is a medium?
Oh my goodness. There's so many definitions. So a medium is someone who can also be psychic, and psychic is another definition, who can tap into the other side, or multiple realms of existence that connect to people who either have passed or entities, or other beings that we don't know exactly what they are. And once you tap into that energy field, you get impressions, like either visions in your mind, or you can sometimes be clairaudient, which just means that you can listen to things like you and I are talking. You can hear it. Some people can hear their name being called when someone has passed away. Some people can smell things when someone's passing away, and they know, oh, I'm smelling roses, something's wrong. So it's just a way of connecting to the other side, of getting messages. And it's really to bring those messages to give the person who's wanting, we call it the sitter, the person across from you, who's just wanting some confirmation. It's not meant to foretell the future or heal anything. It's just meant to be a guide of giving you some guidance. Because remember, you always have free will, no matter what.
Now, how did you discover that that you have this ability?
Well, when I was really little, I used to see this really tall being in my doorway. It was always like a shadow figure, and it looked like it had wings. I didn't know what it was. I used to be really scared. And then later on in life, I kept seeing it again, and I would hear things. I would hear things like, you need to tell so and so, they need to call so and so. I would just get these things that would come in my mind, and it sounded like I was saying them, but I was not saying them. So it sounded like my voice, but I know it wasn't my idea. And I suppressed it for a long time. And then I started getting into religion. So I did like 2 years of Bible study, like Christian Bible study. Then I did a year of Jehovah Witness, which is, I went to the Kingdom Hall and I learned about the Holy Scriptures with them. Then I started learning, I was raised Catholic. So then I started learning about Hinduism and Buddhism and Muslim. I was just learning all these different things. And what I realized, in my opinion, is that there's always one creator. And it's all multiple paths getting to that creator.
Right.
And I like the fact that who am I to say that that person who believes in that religion so strongly is wrong? Maybe that's their path and that's their way. Like some people take 95 to get somewhere. Some people take the back roads.
Right.
Maybe we're all trying to get to that one source, and it's all about love. So for me, it just made me realize they're all beautiful, and I would never judge anybody. However the path is to get to the source creator, I think it's just your way.
Do you find, you've studied many religions, is there kind of resistance to having your abilities?
Oh, big time. Oh, big time. Sometimes, I mean, there's some that say, oh, they talked about that in the Bible, and there are some prophets, and there are some people who had specific gifts. But most of the time, they frown upon it. They think it's something dark or evil, or it's an entity that's, giving you this information. But when you're a medium, you can feel the energy. And you have to protect yourself, which is asking for a white light to protect you. But also you can feel if the energy is good or bad. And you know to not mess with that if you're not interested in that. And it's hard for me now of doing this for almost 10 years. Energy is neutral. It's neither good or bad. It's just energy. And energy cannot be destroyed. So it's the person that takes it to that energy field. And it has to do with their vibrational frequency. If they're really sad, or they're somebody who's always judgmental or very jealous, they're going to have darker energies coming towards them. It's just the way of the universe. It's like attracts like. But when you're a happy person and you're trying to live your best life and think positive all the time, you're not going to have those energies come to you. So it's all depends on the vibration that you're holding.
So when you're doing a healing session with somebody, sometimes you can feel people or that are no longer here in this realm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever encounter somebody who does intend to cause harm?
So far I have not, but I have had energies where they say they apologize, that they know they've done something wrong, or they'll say, I know what your intention was. It just seems like, I don't know because I'm not there, but when a soul has transitioned, it seems like they have some type of life review and they look at how everyone else perceived them, and they have so much love and compassion. So it's like a different energy. I don't feel that dark energy. Are there dark energies out there? Yes, absolutely. I've done a house clearing where I felt something was really dark, and I knew it was it was underneath the stairs, and I could feel this dark energy, and come to find out it was a man who was doing some dark rituals and using animals, sacrificing and all those things, and it was for bad intent. And all you have to do is just transmute that energy and bring it to the light. But some people can't do that.
So how do you protect yourself when you're dealing with all these energies?
Well, sometimes it's hard because sometimes I'll go home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just feel that and it's intense and I just want to cry my eyes out. But usually I ask for protection. I ask my angels, my guides. I always take like salt baths, or at least wash my hands with salt and my feet when I get home. And I get rid of the clothes and I wash it. I know it sounds funny, but sometimes energy can get attached to things. Like if you go to a thrift store, sometimes you want to sage everything or cleanse it
Oh,
because the energies from the other person or these
yeah.
other households can stay on that item. So you want to like cleanse yourself. But I just ask for protection. And sometimes I do feel dark things, and I ask for them to just go and transmute it.
So you also work with crystals.
I do.
Now,
I
how did that interest come about?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Um, I was doing occupational therapy in the hospital.
Mhm.
Back then, it was called Peninsula Florida Hospital. It's no longer here. They tore it down in Daytona Beach. Um, I had a man who is a scientist, and his wife had a stroke, and she was not able to swallow, so they had to put a trach in her throat. And she was working with me that day. Well, I was working with her that day, and I had to give her a shower, so I had to cover her trach and put her in the shower. And the husband said I was so loving and tender towards her. The next day, he brought me a crystal. It was a malachite. It was a green crystal. And then he also brought me this like nautical shell, like the curved one.
Oh.
So beautiful. And I was like, what is this? Why is this man bringing me this? I had no idea about crystals or energy.
Mhm.
And I just said, thank you. I had no idea. And then a month later, another man who had a stroke, he was in his 70s. And I went into the room and I was just talking to him. And he said, can I do Reiki on you? And I said, what in the world is Reiki? What is this? And I said, okay. Well, the next day came in and I was so happy and like so energized. And I told him, okay, I grabbed a chair and I said, before you get in the shower, before you get sent home, you have to take a shower on your own. Tell me about this. And then, so I started learning that way. And then I left the hospital and I started working with children. I worked with a lot of autistic children, and I would put crystals in my pocket. There was a little girl that I would go see, and it was a Montessori school. And every Thursday I would go see her, and there's a metaphysical shop in Daytona
Yes.
next door. So I would go next door, and I just felt drawn to like walk around. So I would just grab one crystal a week. And I was like holding the crystal, I could feel something. And then the little girl would tell me she wanted to hold it. So I started learning that way. And all these children would tell me all the time, they knew it was in my pocket. I don't know how they knew because I was not bringing it around them. I was trying to be there as, I was working with them and doing therapy. And it amazed me. And then I took a class. It was a science teacher who she retired, and she started teaching about crystals and energy. And I liked her way because she taught you in a scientific way and how to prove things, how like the pyramids, on the bottom of the pyramids, clear quartz, how some of the computers use clear quartz, some watches use clear quartz, how it amplifies energy. So I started learning the scientific way, and that was it.
So do different crystals have different things that they do?
Yes, it has to do with the color vibration of the crystal. So, and it relates to the chakras. So once you learn the 7 chakras, which there's tons more chakras, but those are the 7 main ones, the crystal that is relating to that color connects with that organ or that energy field. So for example, amethyst is purple.
Yes.
And it connects with the crown chakra, which is about your wisdom, you opening up your mind, you able to teleport energies within your mind and just create things. And so you're thinking a lot sometimes. So once you learn the vibrational frequency, it's very calming. So it's almost like the antidote of what you're feeling. If you have a lot of stress, overthinking all the time, you want amethyst by your bed.
Oh.
It's very calming, it's relaxing. But the best way, my crystal teacher taught me, it doesn't matter what I say. She said, do it yourself. Because everybody has their own vibrational frequency and their own sacred geometry patterns within their soul. So she said, you grab a crystal for the week, you have a little journal, and you just write down what you were feeling that week.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of experiment with different things and, what feels right to you on that day to pick up
Absolutely.
and try.
Mm-hmm.
That's so interesting. So the amethyst, I was looking for names for my business, and I really like things that are symbolic. And so the amethyst it symbolizes healing. And it's purple and it's pretty. And I said, I can work with this. And there wasn't much more to it than that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but I do believe, there aren't many coincidences in life. And so I do encounter different people or different people with different beliefs. And, oh, you chose the amethyst for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, maybe I did. And it's been such a fun journey and doing this podcast. And I'm learning so much about so many different things. So anyway, that's the story of the amethyst. So with the crystals, do they work on their own, or does the person have to have some kind of intent?
They do, because they're not here to like fix something. Like if you took medicine, if you're supposed to take medicine, take medicine.
Right.
But the crystals are tools. They're energetic tools. Just like you use a fork to eat. You don't have to, but we prefer to use it. So they're just tools that you use, and they connect their aura. They have their own aura and frequency vibration that emits out of them because they come from the earth. And once they are taken from the earth and harvest, and sometimes they put them through machines that make them really soft. Sometimes they leave them natural. I would say the natural ones are the most powerful ones. So they have the earth's vibration and that frequency of the color that they have. You want to hold that crystal, put it with your auric field. Either put it on your heart, put it by your bedside, and you want to work with it. You just want to hold it. You want to talk to it. You want to feel it. You'll start feeling. The crystal has to be cold because the earth's vibrational is cold. But when you work with the crystal, you'll feel the crystal starting to get really warm. And that means it's connecting with your field. But sometimes you'll have a feeling of, I don't really like that feeling. That crystal might not be for you at that time.
Okay. I'll pick something else.
Mm-hmm.
So what's next for Indigo Door?
I don't know yet. I'm leaving it open, but I will be using your space, which I'm excited.
Yes. So breaking news, Indigo Door will be inside of Amethyst Wellness for Reiki treatments.
Yay, I'm so excited.
We are too. We love to offer new treatments for our clients, and we're looking forward to having you share space with us.
I love it. I love adding the whole thing, the medical with the alternative medicine.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So stay tuned for more exciting things.
Yay.
So how do people get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
My website is indigo-door. Let's see, what else? I'm still on Facebook. Thank goodness I got that back.
Good. A story for another time.
Yes,
Facebook being hijacked.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have your information on our page too.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much again for joining me. I learned a lot, and I can't wait to learn more.
Yay. Thank you for having me so much.
And thanks to our listeners for tuning in to Energize and Revitalize with Dr. Amy. If there are topics you would like to hear, please send an email to radiantpodcast2025@gmail.com. Check out past episodes on Amethyst Wellness YouTube channel, and please like and subscribe. I'll be back next Saturday morning at 7:30 with more expert insights and practical strategies to help you live your healthiest and most energized life. Until then, stay healthy, and here's to your best life.